January 15, 2025. The January 15, 2025 meeting of the West Windsor Planning Board is hereby called to order. This is to advise that the notice of the time, date, location, and to the extent known, agenda of the subject meeting was prominently posted in the public place reserved for such meeting, for such or similar announcements on January 8, 2025, transmitted to the Times, the Princeton Packet, and the West Windsor and Plainsboro News on January 8, 2025, and filed with the Township Clerk on January 8, 2025. The first order of business will be the swearing in of reappointed members. First will be Jodica. And Jodica, I'm going to ask if you could stand and basically read the two oaths of office that you've already signed, and I will subscribe to them when we're finished. Jodica, if you could raise your right hand. You can read the oath of office.
I, Jyotika Babu, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of Class 2 member on the Planning Board according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
So sworn. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next will be Alan Scheftel. Alan, if you could raise your right hand and read your oath of office.
I, Alan Scheftel, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of transport member of the Planning Board according to the best of my abilities. So help me God.
So sworn. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'll subscribe that. And then lastly will be Rob. And Rob, I'll ask you to do the same thing that I guess Jodica and Alan. You can raise your right hand.
I, Robert Rivera, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this Senate and under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of alternate one member of the Planning Board according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
Well.
Please take the roll.
Mr. Patel. Mr. Lavaro.
Here.
Mr. Scheftel.
Here.
Mr. Pancove.
Yes.
Mr. Baig.
Yes.
Ms. Barry.
Yes.
Ms. Applegate. Councilman Whitfield.
Here.
Mayor Marte.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hoberman.
Here.
Chairman Carp.
Okay. Thank you. Next order of business will be reorganization. First will be the election of a chair. Do I hear a nomination?
Yes, I would like to proudly recommend Mike Carp for chairman of the Planning Board of West Windsor.
All right.
I second.
Okay, thank you.
For calendar year 2025.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Are there any other Are there any other nominations? Okay. Please take the roll.
Mr. Lavaro.
Yes.
Mr. Scheftel.
Yes.
Mr. Pancove.
Yes.
Mr. Baig.
Yes.
Ms. Barre,
Yes.
Ms. Applegate,
Yeah.
Councilman Whitfield,
Yes.
Mayor Marte,
Yes.
and Mr. Hoberman.
Yes.
All right, next for the election of vice chair. Do I hear any nominations? All right, any other nominations? Can we take a roll call vote?
Mr. Lavaro,
Yes.
Mr. Shechtel,
Yes.
Mr. Panko,
Yes.
Mr. Bade,
Yes.
Ms. Barre,
Yes.
Ms. Applegate,
Yes.
Councilman Whitfield,
Yes.
Mayor Marte,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Hoberman.
Yes.
Congratulations, and I pass the gavel on.
I remain honored to serve. Thank you so much. The next order of business is me to put the sign up here. Next order of business is for me to for the selection of administrative secretary Lisa Konjati and selection of recording secretary Patricia Van Clough. Do we need motions on this? They're selections. Are they, do these need any type of motion? Or we can just affirm that they will
Yeah,
serve in their
I
roles?
think we could. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Affirmation. Thank you so much for serving as our administrative secretary and our recording secretary. Thank you so much. You guys make the wheels spin downstairs, so we can just open up envelopes and see what we need to attend to. So so thank you for your service. And Patricia, we welcome you to serving our board. Thank you for doing that for us. The first order of business is a planning board resolution. This planning board resolution always comes up at the beginning of our meetings. But this year it's called 2025 Resolution 01. And it's about the planning board procedural guidelines for 2025. I do have one correction. Well, actually two corrections. On page 2, the targeted ending time is actually 9:30 p.m. on N, middle of page 2. Tell me when you find it, just so I don't go too fast. But, okay. Similarly, down in Roman numeral 4D, the starting time is 6:30 p.m. and not 7 p.m. But Sue, I think, has something too. You got something, Sue? Right. Also, there you go. On A parenthesis 1, it says 7 p.m. there. That needs to change to 6:30 p.m. as well. Thank you, Sue. Are there any other corrections or questions about the content of the planning board procedural guidelines of West Windsor Township? Could I have a motion, please, to adopt this this resolution and to adopt these guidelines?
Okay.
It's been moved by Jodica, second by Alan, to approve the procedural guidelines for the resolution adopting the procedural guidelines for 2025. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. The next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. And yes, I'm going to read this because we are making a documentary recording of this event. And so I want all our listeners, viewers to know what is the consent agenda. I will read the consent agenda, and at the end of the reading, if there is an item on this consent agenda that you want more discussion of, just say, please remove such item from consent agenda, and then we will talk about it afterwards. The consent agenda. A, the declaration of official and other newspapers to receive notices, the Trenton Times and the Princeton Packet, and that is PB Resolution 2025 R02. B, the resolution setting forth the regular meetings of the planning board, the first and third Wednesdays of the month, and that is PB 2025 Resolution 2023. The authorization for the chair or the vice chair to approve bills and vouchers, C. D, the traffic safety officer, that is Sergeant Walter Silcox of the police department. And we did get a notice this week that he would be serving that role as and not his predecessor. E, the fire marshal, Tim Lynch. F, the landscape architect serving the planning board, Burgess and Associates, Ed Snikus. G, the planning board engineer, Francis Guzik. H, the planning board attorney, Jerry Mueller of the offices of Mueller and Bailey. I, the environmental engineer, Chris Jepson of Van Cleef Engineering Associates. The traffic engineer, Quasi Masood of Aurora and Associates. That's J. K, the planner, Dave Novak of Burgess and Associates. L, the planning board noise and air engineer. That's Mark Paddock of GZA, Geoenvironmental Incorporated. That's the end of the list of the consent agenda. Stu.
You want me to wait till
No, I've gone through the list. I'm done with the list.
GZA, Geoenvironmental. Yes, under professional services agreement. Term 1, it says so for the remainder of 2024, should be 2025.
Absolutely.
I've got it right here, Jerry, if you need it.
On the agreement, first page of the agreement. Item 1.
Mhm. Or the agreement.
The only thing that's- no.
Okay, we're changing it right, well, we're going to change it right now to 2025. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sue. Are there other, I'll ask again. Does anyone want to take anything off the consent agenda at this time? I'd like then a motion to approve with corrections the consent agenda. Go ahead, Alan.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
And the motion is made by Alan, seconded by Jodica, to approve each of the items on the consent agenda. And in this approval, that would be for the listings of those who are for contract awards. Those would be a part of such approval. Is that understood by the board? Yes? Okay. Could I have this, does this type of vote need a roll call, or we can just do it?
I think it can be done by orally.
Okay, so we just, so all those in favor of approval of the consent agenda, say aye. Anyone who disapproves says no. The consent agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is liaison reports. Annis, do you have a liaison report for the Environmental Commission?
I didn't attend the meeting last week.
There was a meeting last week, but you were unable to attend.
I was absent.
Okay, so you'll bring us up to date at the next occasion we want to ask for that. And Annis, I want to thank you for your service to our township on the Environmental Commission. How many years has it been? Huh? 3 years? Thank you, and thank you for your continued service in that way. Jodica, do you have a Affordable Housing Committee report at this time? No meeting in 2025. Okay, very good. And Jodica, on behalf of the board, I want to thank you for your service to our community by serving on the Affordable Housing Committee. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is Chairman's comments and correspondence. And usually when I chair such meetings, I like to open it up if any of the board members have at this time comments and correspondence, if they do, on anything. Does any board member have anything they want to share at this time on that? It might not be an agenda item, but it might be related to the life of our planning board? Okay, then I'll go. First of all, I want to welcome back Jodica, Alan, and Rob to the planning board. Thank you so much for your past service, and thank you in advance for your continued service on the planning board. It's great to have you serve in that way. Our hearts go out to those who have experienced devastation in Western North Carolina as well as California. It's just hard to imagine the magnitude in both of those situations of that and the impact that it has on not only on the individual lives, but on the lives of the community. California is going to be a really interesting thing to watch because the area of that part of the state already had a housing crisis, and yet it's now increased because of the quantity of people that have been displaced in those regions of California experiencing the wildfires. It'll be interesting to see what kind of changes there'll be, not only in building codes. California already has such a stringent building code, but also in terms of planning and zoning. How will the communities respond in their planning and zoning to ameliorating this situation? Don't touch that dial, but monitor it. And then as you do get familiar with it, maybe there's things that we can learn somehow in some way from it somehow, some way. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comments. Does anyone in the audience tonight have a comment about a non-agenda item that they can come to the mic and speak? Seeing none at this time, there will be no public comment. Did I need to do a motion on that type of stuff? No. Okay, that's public comment in terms of an application, right?
Yeah.
Okay, not this type of public comment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay.
On an application, we don't have to have a motion on that.
Right.
So,
We have not received the minutes of June 5th, June 19th, July 17th, October 16th. The approval of such minutes will be deferred to a future meeting when the minutes are ready for the board to receive. We do have minutes of the December 18th meeting. Did anyone have, and actually there's two sets of minutes on the December 18th meeting. There's the closed session and there's also the open session. Does anyone have any corrections to the minutes of December 18th, regular meeting? Sue, go ahead. What do you have on the sheets?
Bottom of page 1 of the found round obligation.
Found round.
fourth round.
Fourth round.
That's all.
Fourth round. Thank you. Are there any other corrections to the meeting minutes of December 18th? Could I have a motion to approve with corrections?
So moved.
All those in favor of, actually, I should do a roll call vote because of its minutes?
Do you want a second?
That'd be good. You want to do it? Thanks, Alan. I'm going so quick tonight. It's going through so much. We can just do it.
By voice.
By voice, a voice, okay. Voice vote on this one. All those in favor of the, actually, before I do that, I'm going back one more step. Does anyone need to abstain from voting on this time? Because you weren't present? Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Jodic. And Sue was absent too. And Rob also. Okay. So all the rest who are present, all those in favor of the approval of the December 18th meeting minutes with corrections, say aye.
Aye.
Any who disapprove, say no. The meeting minutes are approved. How do we handle motions regarding a closed session as we are in open session right now? No, but no, I'm saying the minutes. I'm at minutes. I'm not. Okay. So we'll defer. Thank you, Sam. We'll defer that to to later?
I have, no, you cannot. keep
I
it
have
for
no-
long as you can. I have no issues with the closed minute.
Does anybody have, oh, that's a very good question. Very good. Thank you, Sam. Simon. Does anyone have issues with the minutes of the closed meeting? If no one does, then we can go ahead and do it. All those in favor of approving the closed meeting minutes of the closed meeting of December 18th, 2024, say aye. Aye. Anyone who disapproves says no. The motion passes of the approval of the minutes. We welcome tonight the applicant for PB 24-11 SW in this case means sign waiver for Carnegie Center Building 101.
Mr. Chair, proof of public and service are in order and the board has jurisdiction.
New Year. I think it's still close enough that we can get away with saying it without it being too stale.
I would say tonight's the last night. When you get to the 15th, when you get to the 15th of the month,
You only
the month
get
is
so
half
many
over.
days, then you're out of luck.
So I think tonight's probably the last time you can get away with it. But thank you.
Vice Chairman Oberman, members of the board, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate being your first application in the new year. Congratulations to those of you that were inducted onto the board this evening or returning. Obviously, you see a lot of familiar faces. We are here this evening presenting to you a sign waiver application for a signage package for building 101 Carnegie Center. We are located at block 9, lot 67. As you know, these are some difficult times for office in New Jersey and across the country. Still facing some headwinds, but BXP has been fortunate that we have some outstanding clients who recently have not only extended their leases, but expanded their facilities. One of those clients is Taiho Oncology. They've been a tenant at Carnegie Center for over a decade. They are one of our marquee clients, and we couldn't be happier to have them. As part of a recent transaction where they have agreed to extend their lease and expand their facilities at 101 Carnegie Center, we've agreed to pursue the opportunity for this board to put a facade sign on the southern facade of 101 Carnegie Center bearing their name logo. As many of you know, if you've driven through Carnegie Center, we don't have a lot of facades. It's not something that BXP generally does. There are only a handful of that exist. Those include MG. Usually those are buildings that are along the Route 1 corridor because mobility from Route 1 is an important criteria for a number of our clients that want to announce their presence to the community. So this application tonight is one of those opportunities where we come before you. Of course, the ability to see a sign from Route 1 as you're driving at speeds can be a little difficult. So we're asking for 2 waivers this evening from the same section of your ordinance 200-32B2C that relate to the overall size of the sign and the size of the individual letters and logo that make up the sign that's going to go on the southern facade. I want to emphasize we chose the southern facade, and you'll see some photo stimulation of what that sign will look like to avoid having to remove any trees. Our trees on Carnegie Center's campus are important to us. I know they're important to your landscape architect. We had put it on the northern facade. There happens to be a tree right where that sign would have gone. We have managed to avoid that by putting it on the southern side while maximizing the opportunity for visual view shed from the entrance at Carnegie Center off of Route 1, just adjacent to the Stonehouse. That's primarily where when you're passing through, you're going to see. You're going to hear testimony this evening from Mike Thomas from T&M. BXP's engineering consultant. He will provide an overview of the sign package, the materials that have been provided to you this evening, as well as address some of the comments that were received during the technical review committee hearing from Township Planner David Bowman. We also have available to us this evening Richard Crawford. He is from Bartouche Signs, the sign company that's prepared the actual sign. So if you have questions, you can present some testimony regarding the materials that the sign is made of, how it's illuminated. So if you have questions for Mr. Bartouche, he's available tonight as well. But the preponderance of the testimony you'll hear this evening is from Mike Thomas. So without further ado, I'll bring Mike up. Sure.
Just have a few questions. Of course. What percentage of the building does Tahoe occupy?
So Taiho will have the entirety of the second and third floor. It's a little bit of a loaded question because 101 Carnegie Center is one of our heavily amenitized buildings. So the lower level occupies no office space. It has a fitness center.
So of the two,
But generally they are by far the largest tenant. They make up the vast majority.
50%.
Greater.
Or greater than that, okay. I'm not related, is this? They have Tahoe oncology. Are they doing, what are they doing in the building? Yeah.
It's just office space. There's no research facility. It's not a light lab. It is 100% office.
I had a question.
Of course.
Just based on what you started your testimony, you indicated that in Carnegie Center, the occupants do not generally have signage,
Facade signage.
facade signage.
Yes.
Then you go on to say, well, we're here with a signage application for a facade sign. So I'm curious as to why.
So the general reason why, so we would tend to focus on facade signs where you have a client like Taiho that takes up a substantial portion of the building. So we're unlikely to do a facade sign for a heavily multi-tenanted building where you have several smaller tenants, of which we have a number. So you're already looking at opportunities where you have a single tenant building that's the highest likelihood that you would have a facade sign there. Not all of our single tenant buildings have facade signs. So if you look at all the buildings across Carnegie Center, you look at the opportunities where you have a client that has, a significant enough space that we would want to put a building, client's name on a facade. There aren't that many of them. Taiho happens to be one of those applicants that we absolutely would be proud to have their name on their name on our building.
Okay, so, but this is like an exception to your rules. So to speak.
Yeah, I think we would be looking at opportunities again where if you had a full tenant, full building occupied by a single tenant, you might see us come back for that type of application. That's like NRG, right? At 804, they have a sign on their building. For example, 701 Carnegie Center is fully occupied by Princeton University, no facade sign. Other opportunities where we might have someone that takes up the majority of the building, more than the majority. Again, essentially 3 occupiable floors, not including the basement, which is the amenity space. Taiho has 2 of them, right? So they're the right type of candidate for us to come before the board to ask for this type of. We're also less likely to have that type of signage further into the park. Again, visibility from Route 1, some of the buildings that are active.
And there's no monument sign.
There's monument signage at all of the properties that have to serve predominantly a wayfinding purpose, but we do have monument signs that are active.
With this company's sign.
So our monument signs are part of a standardized sign package that has been presented. They all look the same. So this type of specific signage would be limited to this type of instance. Obviously, within their premises, the interior signage is usually coded to a particular client's branding. But this would be, like NRG sign, for example, there we did come for the similar, if not the same waivers. would be Taiho's logo on the building. And you'll get to hear from Mr. Thomas, who will show you what it looks like and walk you through the plan. Any other questions before?
Wait, quick, I just wanted to pin down a discussion that we had before the meeting started. The sign's not going to be as bright as your jacket, correct?
I assure you, Mr. Mueller, that not only will I never wear this suit to another West Windsor Township Planning Board meeting, that Taiho's sign will be incredibly tasteful and will be something that both BXP and the township will be proud of.
Thank you.
Without further ado, Mr. Mike Thomas, please come up.
Let me swear in.
Actually, I'd like at this time, both the witnesses as well as our professional staff all sworn in at the same time.
Sure.
Okay, in that case, please come up, Richard. So Richard Crawford and Mike Thomas are here.
Check one.
Okay. If you could all raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
So sworn or affirmed. So sworn or affirmed. Mr. Thomas, why don't we start with you? Full name and then spell your last name. Thank you.
And David Novak, Novak, with Burgess Associates.
Sam, go ahead.
Sam.
Just in
Don't
case.
plan on speaking.
Well,
In case,
might need to.
in case you do.
Sam Surtees, land use manager and zoning.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I will just ask Mr. Thomas the question. Is your license current in the state of New Jersey? Thank you.
And just for the record, because I don't know that I did it at the top of the hour, but this is Gregory Ricciardi on behalf of BXP, the applicant, in-house counsel, vice president. So I did hand hard. I have an additional one if you need the spelling.
Thank you, Greg.
So do you need me to further voir dire Mr. Thomas? He has provided testimony before this board.
Mr. Thomas has, you've come here a lot, haven't you not?
Sure
Yeah,
has.
you've been here a lot. So I don't know if we need to do the whole, that whole, unless the board wants it. Are we good? We're good. Mr. Thomas, please testify.
You want the mic?
Please, yes, because we are recording all these transactions and deliberations.
I have one exhibit to hand out tonight. Pass it around. Call this A1.
A1. We've labeled A1.
It'll be. I have a larger version of it, albeit it's black and white. The one I'm handing out to you is in color.
Photograph.
We'll mark it as A1. We'll call it photo simulation of
You have a chance to pass that
I'm
around.
still almost there.
While that's being passed around, I have on our board here, I also have a printout of the site plans that all the board members should have received. So everybody should have a copy of that anyway. In case we need to use it, I'll go back to that, but mostly I'm going to focus on this exhibit A1. All right, so the A1 exhibit is really a photo simulation, if you will, photograph taken on the south western corner of building 101. It's facing the front of the building, and it locates on there the proposed sign, the building facade side, building mounted side, if you will, that's located on there. Nothing too flashy. The dimensions are shown on the exhibit that I had provided out. I'll just read off some of those as we're going through. What is being proposed is an illuminated building mounted wall sign. It's intended to be operating from dusk till dawn, similar to most other operations. Everything in Carnegie Center is more or less on timers that are including their lights that are just outside for nighttime usage. The sign itself is not very large in size in terms of height. We're only talking about 3 foot on its maximum. But the length of it is a little bit longer. The sign itself is approximately 60, almost 68 feet from its nearest property line, which is Carnegie Center Drive, which is located, I'll call it, to the south of where the building is. What's kind of interesting about Carnegie Center Drive is that it's not a public right-of-way. The internal roads within the east side of Carnegie Center are private roadways, including Carnegie Center Drive. The property line itself is measured from the center of that roadway. So why this is important is because when we're measuring distances from where the sign is located to where the property lines are, that's where we're taking it from. The nearest actual right-of-way to where the sign is Route 1, which is quite a distance away. It's over 600 feet, to be more precise, about almost 680 feet away from Route 1. What's also interesting about Building 101 in that particular site, there have some other improvements that have been installed over the last few years, including the solar canopies, which were done, let's just say, around the 2019 timeframe. In addition to that, there's electric vehicle charging stations that have been installed. We currently have an application, or I should say Boston Properties has an application into township right now to expand those EV charging stations within that. So it's being under review, and I believe it's almost done, if I'm not mistaken, with the building department. So this is kind of in complement to that, if you will, obviously servicing more or less Tayo, but obviously Mr. Ricciardi said that there are other users inside of Building 101 aside from Tayo, but Tayo occupies more than 50% of the space within. With regard to zoning on the site, aside from signage, there's really no change. We're not talking about any new disturbances. There's no additional land use permits that we're going to need to do this. Not from soil erosion sediment control or county planning board or anyone else of the like. As I said, we're not really disturbing anything on the ground. We're just adding it to the facade of the building. There's no real special equipment that's going to be really needed to install it. Potentially just ladder and crane, perhaps, but most of the electrical work will be done from the inside of the building, so nothing is going to be routed around the outside or perimeter of the building. Just some other specifics about the sign itself. From its ground elevation, the sign at its highest point is about 41.5 feet above the ground. The building itself is almost 44 foot tall, 43 feet 9 inches. It is up quite a ways there. You'll be able to see it from Route 1 in particular locations, especially at nighttime. As it's illuminated, you'll be able to see it a little bit easier. But just keep in mind that there are solar arrays or solar canopies out at the site, so a portion of it will be blocked depending on your point of view from Route 1. As Mr. Ricciardi had mentioned, we're not proposing any tree removal with this particular project. We had looked at a few different locations along the front facade of where this might be best fitted. There is a lot of access that comes off of Carnegie Center Drive onto the site, as well as Route 1. So you'll be able to get the greatest visibility, we believe, in this particular location. In addition to that, the sign itself, as I mentioned, its height, if you will, the sign, it's about 3 foot tall, if you will. The front facade area of the particular sign is about 85 square feet. The actual front facade of the building itself in total is about 28,000, a little bit over 28,000 square feet. So it occupies about 0.3% of the total frontage of the sign, very, very small. In addition to that, the sign will have some coloring to it. There's specific colors that are unique to Tayo's brand symbol. So their brand symbol, which is the portion of the sign which is located, I'll call it all the way to the left, will be composed of black, brown, yellow, and red. And then the remainder of the sign, I believe, will be more or less black during the daytime viewing, and then at nighttime it will be illuminated with LED lighting. Just a few more items about waivers that are requested. We did review the waivers in depth, a little bit subjective, I suppose, in terms of how we look at it. The reason why I say that is because the waivers are more or less relevant to right-of-way based requirements, so measured from the right-of-way. In particular, anything that is less than 130 feet from a right-of-way. As I mentioned before, what's interesting about this sign, it's more than 600 feet away from the closest right-of-way. So we were going back and forth with this, whether or not we really needed the waivers or not, but we wanted to be conservative. We wanted to make sure we were covering all bases on this. So we stuck with it, with the requirements that were in there. And then we're proposing a sign that is 85.11 square feet compared to the 50 square feet of allowable area for a building mounted sign. And then in addition to that, with an 18-inch height of the sign, which is permissible, we're proposing a maximum height of 36 inches or 3 feet, as mentioned before.
That 36 inches is for the logo, and then it scales down in terms of the lettering. So it was important for Kyle to maintain your brand identity. That's how your logo is presented. Kyle Apology is a longer name. That is the name of the company. Thank you, Mike. And so that's why, to some extent, it is a longer sign. But in order to have that visibility from Route 1, from the interior roadways of Carnegie Center, the waiver was required to get a little bit larger.
What is height under the letters? 24 inches.
Yes.
I just have two questions. One is David Novak indicated that it was going to be lit by halo lighting. I'm not sure what that means.
The backlit, does that mean backlit? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the app would correct me, but typically that would be like a backlight. So it looks like a halo around me because it's called halo lighting.
Thank you.
Is that the
That's the actual
is
official
that the
term.
lighting vocabulary to describe backlit? Is that halo?
Yeah,
lighting?
halo lighting.
I thought Halo was a manufacturer.
That's what I thought. That actually, there probably is a manufacturer called Halo Lighting. That's why I get confused, Alan. And Simon, I agree.
Okay, the next question I have is
Backlit works.
basically this is really going to more or less face part of such a drive. Or I really couldn't find it on the plan.
So, yeah, I'll
I see the facade location.
He's bringing up the site plan.
Yeah, let me
bring up the
leave,
site plan.
Mike, if you could leave what you were just showing a moment ago. I'm not, let's mark as A1 the colored version, which is in the material that we sent to us rather than the black and white.
Yes.
Black, white, A2, just so it's in the record there.
You know what? Why don't we make it A1, A and D? Okay. A1A will be colored, B will be black and white.
I was just gonna say, from what I'm looking at here,
So we're gonna pull up that.
He's going to bring up the site plan.
We'll pull up the larger plan and we'll mark that as applicant's A2. So we can get Mr. Schechtel's question.
So on page 505 of the submitted site plan set, the top of the page is oriented north. So Carnegie Center Drive is on the south side here. So yeah, that's our overall plan. So again, north is to the top of the page, south is to the bottom. So Carnegie Center Drive is on the southern portion of or Carnegie Way, I should say, is on the southern portion of the site. And then the southeast corner of it. So the sign is actually facing towards Route 1. It's not.
And I think it's a good location.
Yeah, and like, as I mentioned before, the canopies that are out there today do quite a bit of masking out there, and there's also quite a bit of existing vegetation.
Yeah, Mr. Schechtel, it's actually the only location, given the existing vegetation and the canopies, where you actually can get some view of the sign from Route 1. There is a clearing for a driveway access point directly adjacent to the stone house, where certainly as you're approaching that, as you're slowing down to come into Carnegie Center, you would get a full view of it from the southbound lanes. You can get a passing glimpse of it, not unlike the view of the Black Rock sign, again, depending upon your speed, but it will be slightly visible. But to your point, this is the optimal location in terms of preservation of existing landscaping and to give at least the opportunity for some visibility.
And just as a side note, I did walk along Route 1 just to look at lines of sight to where the sign would be located, and there are a few gaps that you'll be able to see, especially at nighttime.
Well, I mean, one benefit of the larger sign is at 24-inch lettering is that it could still have highway visibility at speeds of Route 1 speeds. Hear my point? And by comparison, when Rite Aid came to the zoning board for the Rite Aid drugstore on 571, they came to us with the 18-inch lettering for Rite Aid. And we felt in terms of the scale of the building that it was too small, and the zoning board for that building at that location, right on 571, approved 24-inch lettering. Right. So I'm guessing, I don't know if we had to review the Walgreens lettering. I think they just conformed to a 24-inch max. Does that sound right, Sam?
That's correct.
Okay, so if you need a case in point of 24-inch height lettering, the Walgreens from bottom of their script to top of their script is 24 inches.
I have no problem with what they're showing. Basically, it's.
I just brought that up in terms of scale.
Yeah, I know in terms of scale, I think it goes to scale with the building. It's not overwhelming. And I don't think what's there.
Similarly, the planning board in a past life of the planning board, we did review the canopies at Carnegie Center, all over the Carnegie Center campus. Greg, you probably were here for that. And Sam, I don't have any. Do you have any recollection of what the height of the canopies are?
I know that was a concern for the board because of the fire apparatus, making sure.
Right, but whereas with this application, the height to the top of the sign is 41 feet. I can't imagine what the top of the canopies is over 20.
One of the exhibits Mike showed part of the
Do you have a canopy height?
Yeah, we don't, unfortunately on this set, I don't have the elevation view.
But do you have knowledge of
But
it?
yeah, as I recall off the top of my head, it was somewhere between 20 to 22, 23 feet, something like that.
That's even half. That's like half the height of the building. Huh? Right, the canopy, the solar canopies that are over. Yeah, we reviewed that a while ago.
I mean, I've seen it, it's not 41.
Yeah, it's hardly 40. Go ahead, yeah, question?
No, I mean, there's no reason to build 41-inch solar canopy. You can collect same sun at 21 inches, 21 feet as 41.
There you go.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Thomas? Obviously, you remain available. I can bring up Mr. Crawford. He can provide some testimony of the board's pleasure about what the sign's made out of.
Well, come on up and you can add to Mr. Thomas's testimony regarding the sign, anything that he didn't say about the sign that you'd want us to know.
I should say nothing. No, they're halo lit and or
He is
backlit.
sworn in.
They're both.
Halo lit and backlit.
Yeah.
That's
Interchangeable. I see plans all the time.
Mr. Corford, just for a second, he's not testifying as an expert, I take it. So does he have to be qualified?
He's testifying as to the materials of the sign
Yeah.
as the company that's producing
Okay.
it. I don't think
He-
it's
he-
necessarily, I have it, but I don't think you'd like to.
No, that's right. He doesn't have to be qualified.
Welcome, please continue.
Right. So the sign consists of individual fabricated aluminum letters and the logo. And they have metal faces and metal sides. They're about 3 inches deep. They're usually stainless steel or aluminum. And inside are white LEDs. You can't see the LEDs. And they sit inside the letter and they wash back against the wall. So that's where you get the halo lid, the backlit. Excuse me, I have a cold. And the back of the letter is clear Plex sometimes though too, and then we're going to put that in. And that closes up the letter so dust and bugs can't get inside the letter. And they sit on the wall about 2 inches away from the brick or the CMU. So you get that wash. And then the LED low voltage power supplies are housed inside the building. So you go back inside the building, you never see the wire. So during the day, you're going to see the black letters and the 3 colors or the 4 colors for the logo. But at night, essentially the whole thing looks black because it's all white lettering behind. And that's the effect of the halo or the backlit light.
And that is indicated for the board's pleasure on the application material that we marked as exhibit A2. So you can see that simulation of what it would look like.
I'm wondering about two things. One is, so there's a wire for each of these letters and for the logo that go back into the building?
Yes.
Power.
It's all governed by the National Electric Code, UL, the whole thing.
And
they're housed in enclosures inside the building.
my other question is, you have a reason for why the sign is located on that facade in that particular location?
I do not.
So, Mr. Panko, the location was chosen for optimal visibility from the interior roadways and in terms of Route 1, as well as for the preservation of all of the existing landscaping. So we had looked at and considered the northern facade, which might in the dead of winter have had slightly better visibility from Route 1, but it would have required the removal of about 4 trees. And that was not something that we were willing to entertain. It's not something that the board would want. So the southern facade presented the next best opportunity for that level of visibility.
Like, but what about its specific location on that facade?
Oh, it's so
As opposed to it, say, being a foot further to the left.
So it from a visual standpoint, in terms of anchoring it on, the southernmost portion of the southern facade, visually we thought that was the most appealing. It also was the greatest visibility. Yep, understood. So if there are no other questions for Mr. Crawford, apologies. We have nothing further for the board, but are certainly available to answer any other questions and or to walk through any further specifics of the waivers themselves.
Does the board have any other questions at this time of the applicant? Thank you. Could we have our professional report at this time of the planner?
Now, of course. Good evening, everybody. For the record, this is David Novak with Burgess Associates. Thank you for reappointing us again. Looking forward to working with you this year. We had a memo dated December 12th, 2024. I will cut to the chase. I have no objection to this application. I think that the literal enforcement of the regulations would be impractical for the site. If you look at the site layout, what they're trying to do is make the sign visible for the entryway into Route 1, as well as those access drives, those main access drives, which range anywhere from, for my estimates, around 400 feet to 650, 680 feet. We have a bit of an oddity in the ordinance where we do measure or we do restrict the size of a sign based on the distance to the right of way, which in theory would make sense. If you're further away, you get a larger sign. However, in this scenario, and this has popped up as well as in Nassau Park and Nassau Pavilion shopping centers, where you have the sign that's projected towards an aisle or a roadway or an access way that's 400 feet away, but there's a roadway or there's a right of way directly behind the building where there is no signage located, they're still being caught by that more restrictive measurement to that roadway. So they are basically hamstrung being located closer to a roadway, even if that sign is not projecting towards that roadway. Just for the sake of comparison, for buildings that are more than 400 feet away, maximum sign area can be 225% of the linear business frontage with a maximum area of 150 square feet and a maximum letter height of 3 feet. So if that was applied here, this would be a completely conforming application. One of the other things we always like to look at, and the applicant did provide this, is the area of the sign against the facade itself. The rule of thumb, and this is a very basic wishy-washy rule of thumb, is we typically look around 5% of the facade area to see if the sign is going to be overwhelming or not. And again, that's a very loose rule of thumb. This sign is approximately 0.3% of the facade area. The way it's been located, the way it's been placed, we appreciate that there's no trees being removed. It seems to provide some visibility. I would agree that most visibility is probably going to be for traffic entering from Route 1. I don't know, but I'm sure you'll see it along Route 1, but I think that really the grabbing point will be once you get into the site from Route 1 as well as with access ways. So we have no objection to this application. We have no objection to the granting the waiver. And I'll keep on calling it halo lighting. It's like the split rail and the slip rail debate too. I don't know if you ever heard that one.
It's North Jersey.
Are there any questions for David from his report? Are there any other questions for the applicant at this time? Okay, I'd like a motion to open it up for public comment.
So moved.
It's been moved by Simon, seconded by Alan to open for public comment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now is the time for public comment. Does anyone from the our audience tonight want to make comments about this application?
I'll move to close the public.
Okay, it's been moved by Simon, seconded by Annis to close the public comment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Greg, do you have closing remarks you want to make?
I would just again thank the board for their time and welcome you to the new term and the new year. If anyone's curious, the suit is made by Indochino. But thank you all very much for your time and consideration of our application.
So tonight before the board is the approval of the signage at this location and also the approval of 2 waiver reliefs, one for the wall sign area and one for the wall sign letter height. David, I've captured all the waivers, correct?
That would be correct. The waivers are for sign area and for the letter height. Yes.
Is there any other discussion on the application before we take a vote? Could I please have a motion on this application?
I can motion to approve this application with the waivers requested.
Second.
If I may, the only potential condition is lights on only from dawn to dusk. Dawn? Dusk to dawn. But given what Greg has said as a general practice and what Mr. Thomas has said, it doesn't seem to me it's necessary, but I just wanted to raise that with the board.
And Sam, on an issue like that, we're not asking, the applicant's not asking for a waiver. He's just telling us, the applicant's telling us that's the practice.
There's no ordinance that would restrict.
And there's nothing restricting them for dusk to dawn continuous lighting during the overnight, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The motion is on the floor. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Navarro,
Yes.
Mr. Schechtel,
Yes.
Mr. Panko,
Yes.
Mr. Big,
Yes.
Ms. Barry,
Yes.
Ms. Applegate,
Yes.
Councilman Whitfield,
Yes.
Mayor Marte,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Holberman.
Yes. The motion approves unanimously. Congratulations. At this time, the board is going to move into closed session. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Before we close off on the public part of the meeting, the Planning Board of West Windsor Township is moving into closed session to discuss our affordable housing obligation for the fourth round of the housing law.
And the board is going to discuss in closed session